received entrepreneurial nominations and awards and is a frequent speaker at entrepreneurship and empowerment seminars. Morenike obtained a first degree in industrial mathematics from Cambridge University and a second degree in financial mathematics and computation from the University of Leicester, United Kingdom. A mother of two girls, she's married to her best friend and mentor, Yomi Molehin. And we want to say thank you to Yomi Molehin for allowing you to be here as well. Because, just like what Maria was saying, God, it's season of resting, right? God is telling you to rest. Your husband is telling you to rest. But, has allowed you to be here as well. So we really need to honor him. And thank you so much for it. God bless you. And thank you for what you're bringing to us this evening. We love you. Thanks.
Thank you. Love you so much. So thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm also blessed to be here with other amazing women and an amazing man who I can't see his face anymore, but I'm sure he's there. And other people that are here as well. I've been blessed in the about 1 hour that this has started. I've just been blessed. Thank you so much, Laurel. Thank you so much, Maria, for blessing us this afternoon, evening. And I pray that, for everyone that has joined, the expectations will not be cut short. Everyone will leave here, with at least a word, in season for them, in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adam, for having me. I will fly to America to come and see you and give you a big hug very soon. Yes, and every other person. I'm available to travel once this corona ends. Yes, all right. So it's interesting that everyone, has spoken, in line with having the desire, having. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. I couldn't hear anymore. So yes. So the theme for this for this webinar is finding hope in community, right? And it's just interesting that speakers have spoken about intimacy, and the spirit is one because while preparing for this, that's what the Lord was just prompting in my heart, right? So it says, what is hope? Right? Hope is a feeling of expectation and a desire for a particular thing to happen. It's also a feeling of trust. So you ask yourself, how can we have hope when everything looks hopeless, right? Especially in these times, in this season. Like, how can you even open your mouth to talk about hope? What am I even hoping for? Is it even possible to even have hope at all? Everything seems gloomy. But as believers, and I really, really liked what Laurel said earlier, right? And it's the exact same thing that is happening to me as well. When this whole thing started happening, at some point you then become overwhelmed. You're for no reason, you're just so scared, you're apprehensive, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? You don't even know what's happening, but you're just feeling really scared, which is valid, right? But I just decided, what, I don't have control over the things that are happening, right? But I have control over the things that I allow to affect me. And so if I don't have control over the negative news, why don't I just, turn that energy into, positive? And you know how it is, no matter how positive, when you're positive, right, you attract positive things, you attract like great things, you attract, like, everything just begins to fall in line. It becomes in alignment with what you're surrounding, what you're thinking. And so that's what I decided to do, and it has just been amazing. I feel like this year, this year is my best year, because I decided that, what, this year, no matter what, I'm a child of God. When others shouting, there's a casting down, I will keep on saying that there is a lifting up. Amen. So I just want to encourage everyone here, that there is hope. Definitely there is hope, right? So as a believer, we are people of hope, and we should keep communicating hope, right? Like I tell my friends in this season, as light bearers, this is when we need to let our light shine the most, right? So that other people can get a glimpse of it and also come into that light. I'll just quickly read Romans chapter 5 verses 3, which says, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. Now, my message today, I'm going to be talking majorly about the Shunammite woman, right? Second Kings chapter 4, verses 8 to 37, right? I know that most of us here know our story, but for the benefit of those that don't know, right? This woman, is one woman that inspires me, right? So we know about Elisha, he's the man of God. He was a prophet to the northern kingdom and traveled from town to town, doing the Lord's work, back in the days, right? He would have to rely on the Lord, to feed him, and the Lord would cause somebody to show, him hospitality. So imagine, preaching, going to London, and then God is like, don't worry, I'll let you know, I will show you the next step. Like that, I can't even imagine the level of hope and faith and trust that must be, because I'm just like, if I go to London and I'm now stranded, like where next would I go to, right? But so even that one's another story for another day, right? So Elisha was traveling to a small town called Shunem. And I really, 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 like I said, like I just really, really admire this woman, right? So and I'm really going to talk about her. The woman that from that time who received blessings from God, right? In that time, people would have to rely, like I mentioned, earlier, people like to rely on the prophets such as Elisha, to hear from God. But thankfully, since the Pentecost, Jesus sent the Holy Spirit to also do to do the work that the prophets used to do back then. And I want us to look at how God blessed this woman through her interaction with the prophet of God, and show how the Lord can bless our lives in the same way through the Holy Spirit. Elisha, you know, um, went to her house. She received him. In a godless time at that time, right? This woman wasn't anything special. In fact, her name isn't recorded in the Bible, right? And she received a great touch from God just because of the acts that she did. What was it about her life that caused God to intervene in such a manner, in such a great way? If God was to empower, if God was to if God was able to empower the life of a nameless woman living in such a time, then surely He can touch our lives too, right? Just especially as believers, that we already know who we are in Christ. We are identified with Him, But there are four main things that I would just, like to pick out about this particular woman that we need to emulate if we are to encounter God's power as she did. We're talking about hope in finding community. Sorry, we are talking about finding hope in community rather. She wanted to make the man of God feel welcome. She made room for him. She received God's promise, and finally she held on to that promise even though it seemed to be dead. So one of the first thing is making God welcome, right? So from the start, it is obvious that this woman had a hunger for God, as she was able to recognize God's man when he entered town immediately, and then invited him into her house, right? It's one thing for you to be able to discern, for you to be able to, know that this is what I'm supposed to do, right? There are so many things that God, like one of the speakers said, God is constantly speaking, God is constantly speaking, but are we hearing? Yeah, there's so much noise, there's so much distraction, there's social media, the things, trials of life, there are different things, right? But you just need to be still and no, because there's like, I can't even imagine God saying, my daughter, I need you to receive this man of God. And that's the time, that she's on Instagram chatting, I'm just, just trying to relate it to this time. That's why she's on Instagram, and then she missed what God has said. And then, it's a ripple effect. Like she misses her blessings, she misses what, she could have done, or, and it just, comes to modern day, what is God saying? Are we always, listening? Are we always, following instruction? Anyways, yeah, so so she invites this man of God. She was desperate to be of service, to the man of God. So she obliged and came and told him to come in for a meal. In fact, she looked after him so well that every time he was now in town, right, he would stop by. So do we really, want to encounter God, right? Do we really want to be empowered by the Holy Spirit? Do we really, really, really seek Him? When was the last time, that we said, what, God, let's just gist, let's just, talk. I'm not going to bombard you with my problems. I'm not going to, someone said, some time ago that, most of us, we treat God like it's an ATM machine. So you just go, put in your pin, take the money, and then that's it. Just dump it, right? When you need money again, you go to the ATM machine, put in your details and get it, right? So, but we don't. Most times, that's what our relationship is with God. But so, how do you get the best out of Him if that is all that you're doing? Not having like that personal relationship. So, do we really seek God, right? We may think that we may think that we have the Holy Spirit, we speak in tongues, we occasionally prophesy, but do we know the full extent of His power? Like, have we, encountered? Do we understand the full power? The extent of His power. Some of us are believers rather, but don't know, or understand the power that we have. And I feel like this is really unfair to the Holy Spirit and unfair to God, right? So imagine that I am I am Dangote's daughter, and I don't know that I am Dangote's daughter. I can be poor, and I know I would, I have like billions sitting down in one account, but because I don't know who I am, I cannot reach for all of that wealth, right? There's something in law. I'm not a lawyer, but I hear that, well, how do they put it? I know that there's something where it's like if when it comes to inheritance, if you don't even know that you have that inheritance, you cannot access it, right? So imagine someone's father dies and then he has like millions and billions sitting down, but he doesn't know that he has that money. It's almost, it's just almost useless, right? So another thing is, have we made room for God, right? If God then comes, and one question is, have we made room for God? Okay, let's say yes, and then God then comes to us. Is he going to find it somewhere worth coming back to, right? Are we willing to make our hearts somewhere that the Holy Spirit wants to return to again and again? If this woman had a house that has been filthy or full of rubbish, the chances are that Elisha would never have wanted to return, right? Many people ask God for his power, but expect him to come and rest in our unbelieving hearts, right? The woman made her home welcoming and fed the man of God well, and so he wanted to return over and over again, right? If we are to be a resting place for the Holy Spirit, we need to earnestly seek, to be seeking that visitation, and we must make sure that hearts are welcoming, to the Spirit. Prior to revival, coming to a church in, like going to church, like during this Corona time now, I know that, people have been saying, lots of people have been talking about it, and I know that we've experienced it as well. We realize that church is we are the church. Church is not the building, right? And then now that you have to seek God for yourself. You diligently just have to seek God, right? Second point is, that I got from this is making room for God. When Elisha had been coming regularly, this woman approached her husband and proposed that they make him a room so that he can only visit, so that he can not only visit rather, but stay. She expanded her house to ensure that the man of God could not only drop by but dwell. No, so now she's thought about it. I said, it's not just one time. Like, I need this man of God to keep coming, right? She ensured that it was fitted out with everything that the man of God needed. I would assume that her husband was also a godly man, so he obviously agreed with her plans. So they set out to build a room. So basically, the question is, are we going to allow God to stretch us? Are we going to allow God to expand us? To take us in, right? Stretch us just in many ways. So are we making room for God? Because it is when we do that, right? There's just so much. In fact, it's just limited. Is unlimited rather. Another point is receiving from God. Right, God bless this woman with more than she ever dreamed or hoped for. Why did God bless her so greatly? It was just because she had a desire to serve the man of God without expecting anything back. Right, this woman's primary motive was just to serve. I've witnessed so many or countless testimonies where someone just decided that what, I'm just going to be of service, I'm going to be of value, I'm going to propose value, and without anything, and down the line, right, it's like it comes back more than 100 times, in their favor. So my question really, before I lose my train of thought, is, are we, really giving, being a person of value? So fourthly, right, this woman was holding on to the promise, right? The woman had made the man of God welcome. She had expanded her house to make him a place to dwell. And because of that, she had received the promise more than she could ever have managed, right? She had also started to see that promise grow. So those are the few things that that I'll just talk about this woman, and we can see lessons from this particular woman, right? For me, I know you're talking about finding hope in community. I'm so blessed that I have 16. I have a community with 16 strong, amazing women, right? And I've been doing life with them, say, for about 5 years now, right? As believers, we need, to have a community, of like mind. We need to be connected to, a body of believers with whom we can do life with, when we are in crisis and when we are not in crisis, right? Like I said, I've been in this strong community for over 5 years. And so it's not like it's now that Corona has come now that I'm not trying to build a community, right? Church is not just for the hard times. We know that church is not just for the hard times. So these communities as well, they are not just for the hard times. And it's just almost natural, right? When you show up, people show up for you as well. So this community, it has really helped me. It helped me to grow. I know that it's by the grace of God, but just having them, I can count on them for support, for hope when I'm feeling really down, after praying, and just, they encourage me in the Lord, they encourage. So, these are part of the things that give me, hope as well, because truth is we cannot do life by ourselves. In fact, the way God has designed this, you cannot do life by yourself. So you'll be shortchanging yourself if you're just on your own by yourself. There's just so much that you can achieve from that. I don't know if I've spent up to 20 minutes, yeah, but I think that in conclusion, right, I'll say that I'll ask again that, are you a person of value? Right? Are you a person of value? What do you have in your hands that you're not using? There is no way that there's nothing, like, you can't even say that there's nothing that you don't have. We all know about the parable of talent. At least someone had one, right? It's impossible for God to create us, without him depositing any gifts or talents in us. It is impossible, right? So knowing, having that, consciousness, or knowing that, it's because those gifts, right? Once you have these things, you God has designed in such a way that these gifts, these talents, you can use it to achieve many things, as long as your mind, is open. So in terms of business, in terms of career, in terms of marriage, in terms of relationships, in terms everything, right? Making sure that every time, you always ask yourself, am I a person of value? Like, what am I offering, right? So it's not about taking, because guess what? No matter, like, when you give, every time that you give, there is no way, right? You would always receive. And someone that is being blessed, right, would definitely be hopeful. And I just want to encourage everyone, that is here listening on this broadcast, saying that all hope is not lost. All hope is not lost. Just connect back to the source. And I know that someone will ask a question. Okay, yes, I've been praying, I have been fasting, I've been reading the word, but are you listening to what God is saying in this season? Are you listening? It's in that you can key into what God is doing and what God is saying for you, right? What God is saying to me will be different from what God is saying to you. So what is God saying to you, and how can you use that in this season? I just want to thank you again, Ma, for inviting me, to be a blessing, and I can't wait to listen to the other speakers as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Ma.
Amen. Thank you so much, Morenike. God bless you. Thank you so much for that. I mean, so many things that you said there. And I'm just going to put you on mute. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Morenike, once again. So many things that you said, and as you were talking, so many things that we've had other speakers shared as well. You were actually reiterating them, and I just wanted to make mention of something very crucial. When we had Pastor Gideon when he came and was talking about Peter and how God, asked him to give him his boat. So there's always some. So the question is, what is it that you have? God has something, and I think the beauty of it is the fact that God never. Number one, God never created us, empty. God puts, a purpose in each and every one of us. So nobody can ever say, there's nothing that, I don't have anything that God can use. And throughout the scripture, again and again, God has shown us through his word that there's always something in our hands. We're never, so even in this season that seems, is a season characterized by trepidation, characterized by fear, hopelessness, anxiety, worry, and all of that. There is something in our hands. And so in that place of that something in our hands, takes us back to the place of intimacy, which you just talked about, the place of hearing God, the place of making room for God, of allowing God to come dwell, to allow God to make his dwelling, to lounge. Like I think it was a Message translation that says it, where you allow God to lounge in your presence. So thank you so much. And again, that's, the beauty of this community is the fact that, like, I've said it again, God is saying different things, but it's the same key theme that, change has not come to destroy us. This present change has not come, to make us hopeless. No, this change has come to propel us into great things, into the blessings that God has for us in this season. So that's the question to ask, guys. What do we have in our hands? What is that value that we have that God can use? So don't know what you say, oh, I don't have anything. No, we have something. Same thing with the woman, with the widow with oil. There was something. When the prophet came, Elijah came as well. He said to her, what do you have? And she said, oh, this is all I have, oil and the olive oil and flour, and she was ready to die. And in that same situation, that same, that situation, because for her, she said, we're just going to take the last of this meal and we're going to die. So she was in a state of hopelessness as well. But yet, in that same situation, God transformed her and she became a businesswoman. So you look at that, she became a businesswoman as well. Because, and look at the place of community. Because imagine if she didn't have community. God, Elijah said to her, "Go borrow vessels." So there's a place of community. We see that again in the life of Peter as well. So when God now said, after he gave what he had to God, what he had to Jesus, Jesus then said to him, "Okay, launch out. Put your net into the sea." And he was like, "Okay, Lord, but we've done this." But obedience again, instruction. And the blessing was not just only for him now, the blessing was also for his network. So like what Pastor Guinness said, when your net breaks, then you bring together your network, something like that. I'm just paraphrasing it. So thank you so much, Morenike, for that word. God bless you.